Common Sense Army, it is Thursday, and on today's episode of the Why I'm Right podcast, I'm going to break down what's going on in the U.S. right now. Obviously, we see these protests continue on college campuses. Now, police are getting involved on these college campuses around the country, and right now, the Democrats are signaling and pre-programming what is to come during the 2024 election. It's very important. You need to listen up here. This is Why I'm Right.
We live in a world filled with noise and confusion, clickbait, and outright lies in the media. But here, we cut through the clutter to find the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. This is Why I'm Right, the podcast where we dig deeper, ask the tough questions, and unravel the tangled webs of political and current events. Join us as we dissect the latest news, analyze political rhetoric, and challenge the narratives that dominate the mainstream discourse. We're not shy. From dissecting the motives behind policy decisions to uncovering the hidden agendas of public figures, it's what we do. It's time to think for ourselves. This is Why I'm Right. And now your unafraid and unapologetic host, Matt Taylor.
Welcome to the Why I'm Right podcast. Yes, I'm Matt Taylor, and if it's your first episode here on the Why I'm Right podcast, I'm happy you're here. If you're already a member of the Common Sense Army, welcome back. As I say on every episode of the Why I'm Right podcast, we're growing the Common Sense Army one day at a time, one podcast at a time. The one way you can help push this mission forward is by clicking subscribe, liking these videos, and sharing these videos with friends, family, people who agree, people who disagree, because the most important thing to our nation is the ability to have civil discourse, especially when it comes to politics, and especially in the world we're living in right now. We look on what's going on these college campuses around the country. This is anything but civil discourse. I say it all the time. Freedom of speech is so crucial to our nation, so crucial to our freedoms. This is not freedom of speech. These are riots. These are breaking and entering. There are crimes being committed, discrimination against students, not letting them enter the campus that they are paying hundreds or $90,000 or $80,000 a year to attend. The country is in chaos. And right now, Democrats are very scared about what that means for 2024. What that means for the future of Joe Biden as a president and the future of the liberal agenda that's going on right now. And so this episode is critically important because I believe a lot of times in our country's history, we've seen the controlling party, the controlling administration, showcase and pre-program when things are going to happen. And I believe right now we started to see the pre-programming of what is the October surprise. In an election cycle, you guys all know this. If you're into politics whatsoever, you all know this. During the election, the presidential election, typically what happens as we get closer and closer to election day, there is typically what people call the October surprise, which is right before election. Election's the first week of November. This year it's November 5th. Right before the election in October, a bomb gets dropped, a theoretical bomb, not an actual bomb. We hope not. But a bomb gets dropped on the campaign and impacts the election and can sway who becomes the next president of the United States. I believe Democrats right now are signaling. I believe Democrats right now are pre-programming and trying to get the narrative started so that come October, they can drop the bomb. And so I want to start this episode with a clip. This is Secretary of State Tony Blinken talking about China collusion now. You remember last election, the 2016 election, when Trump was against Hillary Clinton, it was all about Russia collusion. Trump is colluding with Russia. His campaign is colluded with Russia. They're working alongside of Russia in order to fix or rig the election in favor of Donald Trump. Obviously, his first 2 years in office was all about the Russia collusion and the Russia collusion hoax, which we found out later was anything but true. But now Democrats are trying it again. Now they're going to use a different target, not Russia. They're using China. And before I even play this clip, think about how stupid that is on its face. Why would China want Donald Trump to be president? Has there ever been a president in this nation's history that was harder on China than Donald J. Trump? Harder on China with trade than Donald J. Trump? Why would China want Trump in office? We see what happened right now when Russia and Ukraine, everything going on. Well, what would happen if China invaded Taiwan? Would we do much right now with the administration we're seeing, the way it's gone in this country, the chaos around the world, the chaos around our country? Why would China want Donald Trump in office? But let's listen to this. This is Secretary of State Tony Blinken saying that China is looking to interfere and impact the 2024 presidential election. Here it is.
I've seen, generally speaking, evidence of attempts to influence and arguably interfere, and we want to make sure that that's cut off as quickly as possible.
So you heard it there. We've seen evidence that China is trying to interfere and impact the election. They're planting the seed today because come October, the story is going to be Donald Trump is colluding with China to interfere with the 2024 election. The same way they did with Russia collusion back in 2016. I believe the catalyst, the thing they're going to use is TikTok. Obviously, right now, we see what's going on with TikTok in this country. We see that the government and the Biden administration and even Republicans in the House of Representatives threw this TikTok ban into the latest foreign aid package that we're sending money to Ukraine, Israel, Gaza, all of this foreign aid. We threw in that bill, the TikTok ban. And the Biden administration has been very clear they want TikTok banned. And I believe they're using Donald Trump's words against him. Trump came out in the past week and he said, that the TikTok ban is a bad idea for free speech and a bad idea to start having companies be closed in the United States. No one, I said it before, no one in, I believe, American history, presidential history, has been harder on China than Donald Trump. And I can't wait to see Adam Schiff and all of the same crazy characters that tried to pump, manipulate, and lie about Russia collusion and pump the false narrative about Russia collusion. And they all were proven so wrong last time, and again, it will happen here. If they try to say Donald Trump is colluding with China to overthrow the election, impact the election, interfere with the election, and that somehow China wants Donald Trump to be the president, the same way it blew up in their face in 2016, I believe this would be even worse. It would blow up in their face even more. So the bomb they're going to drop in October won't blow up in Donald Trump's face. It will blow up in the face of Democrats and Joe Biden. But what is scary to me is the Democrats' narrative, the Democrats' agenda, the Biden campaigns, forget the Biden administration, the Biden re-election campaign effort is not working right now. Trump has increased in the polls. Biden has decreased in the polls. From a campaign standpoint, forget the Biden administration, forget the bad policies right now. The campaign is failing. And my fear is when the campaign is failing, they have no choice but to go nuclear, no choice but to go radical, and that is what's scary to me. I don't believe the China collusion hoax that's coming down the line here is going to matter to many voters in this country, because many voters remember the 2016 election, remembered the falsities they were told, remember the lies they were pumped with, the indoctrination, the propaganda. I don't think it'll work. But the theme of this campaign cycle has been Democrat failure from the campaign standpoint. Forget the policy. The campaign has failed epically. Because when you look at what they wanted to do, when Trump was talking about running, they sent the warning shot and said, if you run, that was the raid on Mar-a-Lago, if you run, we're coming after you. We're going to weaponize the Department of Justice and come after you. And then we've seen what's gone on since that day. The Stormy Daniels trial, the trials going on in Georgia. And obviously we know the documents case in Florida. And more will come. We saw the case with E. Jean Carroll in New York City. We saw the case in New York City with the loan. I mean, think about what they're doing right now. And the scary part, like I just started by saying, is it's not working. Every time they charge Trump, it has an equal and opposite reaction, and not the reaction that the Democrat campaign, the Joe Biden campaign, forget the administration, the campaign wants Joe Biden to go up in the polls and Donald Trump to come down in the polls. Well, guess what? The equal and opposite reaction is actually occurring. When they charge Trump, he goes up in the polls. When they convict Trump of not rape in New York City with E. Jean Carroll, what happened? People saw it for what it was. He went up in the polls. When they saw what happened with the loan case, he gets charged and obviously has been told he has to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in fines. He went up in the polls. And now we're watching this Stormy Daniels charade going on right now in New York City. And again, people are seeing it for what it is. This campaign cycle and the strategy from the Democrat Party, the strategy from the machine in the Democrat Party right now, the Biden campaign, the people that ran the Clinton campaign, the people that ran the Obama campaign, their strategy was, let's go after Donald Trump in the courts and let's make sure Donald Trump never gets elected ever again. It started at the end of his presidency in 2019 and the beginning of 2020. When Trump had questions about the election, they said he was trying to overthrow the election. Then obviously we all know what happened on January 6th, and they tried right then and there to charge him with insurrection so that he could never run again because they fear this man. And since that day, and since he thought about running again, they started with the raid in August. And you guys have to look at what's going on. And like I said, the overarching theme of this episode is that none of it is working. The Russia collusion hoax didn't work. The impeachment hoax didn't work. The impeachment 2 hoax with Ukraine didn't work. The insurrection didn't work. Raiding Mar-a-Lago didn't work. Charging Trump in New York City didn't work. Charging Trump in Georgia didn't work. Convicting Trump in New York City didn't work. Now Trump's on trial, it's not working. And my fear, and this is what I'm talking about when I say pre-programming is occurring right now, signaling is occurring right now, my fear is they will have no choice, the Democrat Party, the elites that want to see the Biden administration continue, the people actually running the White House today, because we all know Joe Biden isn't running his own life. Forget the Oval Office. Forget the White House. Forget the country. And as I said, the signaling has started. The pre-programming has started. They're letting us know right now a Black Swan event is going to happen. A Black Swan event is coming. And it's not just the Democrats signaling this. It's Hollywood signaling it. It's Netflix signaling it. Think about it. In the last 6 months, Barack Obama, an ex-president who has no reason to be working on, producing a movie on Netflix, releases a movie called Leave the World Behind, where the power goes out and the world and the United States is in chaos. Why would an ex-president ever release a movie, produce a movie about an event like that occurring in the United States? And now we see, it's out right now, you can go to the movie theater and see it right now, Hollywood is signaling the same thing. They just released a movie called Civil War. About two sides, again, right versus left. Chaos ensues. And what modern-day Civil War would look like. And it looks a lot like what's going on these campuses around the country right now. It looks a lot like what happened on BLM, the Defund the Police movement. Even the DOD, Department of Defense, and Homeland Security is signaling. They're telling us point blank, there is going to be a terrorist attack on American soil right now. ISIS is a threat, and obviously now we have threats from Hamas that apparently the left is supporting. Even our own Department of Defense is signaling a Black Swan event of terrorism is coming. Listen to this clip here. This is the DOD, Homeland Security, warning of a terrorist attack on American soil right now. Here's the clip.
FBI and Homeland Security officials are warning U.S. law enforcement about the potential for terror inspired by that deadly ISIS attack in Moscow targeting a concert hall. The concern, according to the bulletin, violence targeting mass gatherings such as sports stadiums, concert venues, or houses of worship in the United States. Law enforcement told to be on the lookout for any suspicious activity. The bulletin coming just days before millions will gather to watch the eclipse on Monday. Authorities say following the Moscow attack, ISIS and its supporters celebrated the assault and shared graphic and violent attack footage. The terror group calling for similar attacks in the United States.
I'm told U.S. law enforcement is being urged to take this bulletin seriously. Sources say ISIS remains a very real threat, David.
ISIS remains a very real threat right now in the United States. Terrorist is a real threat right now in the United States. Again, we have an open border where we have no idea who's coming into the country, why they're coming into the country, or what they're capable of doing in the United States of America today. And so think about it. I just said, the campaign is failing. The Biden campaign, the elite campaign to not have Donald Trump become the next president is not working. Trump is beating Biden right now in swing states, in popular vote polls across the country. Think about what Joe Biden ran on in 2020. He ran on a return to normalcy. He ran on, I'm Uncle Joe, I'm your grandpa. And I'm going to return America to be what America was before the chaos of Donald Trump. That was pretty much the campaign slogan of 2020 for the Biden campaign. A return to normalcy. And if you remember when he announced his campaign to become president of the United States of America back in 2020, or it actually was 2019, but running for president in 2020, if you remember that campaign ad where he announced his candidacy for president of the United States, it was Charlottesville, Virginia. And he highlighted these white supremacists, these Nazis are Trump supporters. And he tried painting it as if every Make America Great Again, anyone that wears a MAGA hat or supports Trump is a white supremacist, racist, and a Nazi. So his two things were Trump's supporters are Nazis. Trump supporters are white supremacists. And I'm going to be Uncle Joe and return to normalcy, return the respect of the Oval Office. Well, Biden's America today has been anything but normal. We're seeing history taking place right now, and history that's not good history. We're seeing historic wars across the world, historic illegal immigration into this country. And right now, think about the contrast from what he ran in 2020, saying Trump supporters are Nazis, Trump supporters are white supremacists, Think about the supporters of the Democrat Party right now. Think about the Biden supporters today on Columbia University, on UCLA's campus, on any of these campuses around the country. Guess what they're yelling right now? They're yelling, "Kill the Jews," and supporting a terrorist organization today. So the campaign is failing epically. And as I said, the trials and charges, the campaign strategy was, let's get Trump out of the race and let's hope that the movement ends, the support ends, and it goes back to the old Republican Party. Because they think they could beat the old Republican Party. They know they can't beat Donald Trump in a fair election. So the trials and charges against Trump are proving not to hurt Trump, yet make him stronger. And so my fear for America right now, my fear in this country today, is that Democrats have no choice but to do something radical. No choice but to do something drastic. And the pre-programming has started. There are conspiracy theories out there. I'm not even going to get into them. But there are conspiracy theories out there that these people, these elites in this world, have to pre-program what's going to happen in order to offset any negative karma that will come to them. But when we have a president, an ex-president, who actually was the president when Biden was vice president, releasing a movie on Netflix, producing a movie on Netflix called Leave the World Behind about an event in this country. We're seeing Hollywood release movies called Civil War. The Department of Justice telling us there's going to be a terrorist attack on American soil. The pre-programming's out there for something radical right now. And that is my fear. So as I shift the focus of the episode, again, we have to highlight what's going on these campuses because it's all connected. Obviously, last night, UCLA was a disaster. Police obviously had to get involved finally. But think about this right now. These protests are happening really in New York City. They are happening elsewhere, right? We saw what happened in North Carolina. A fraternity stood up and said, we're not flying the Palestinian flag. And they held the American flag up and sang the national anthem. But really, the big protest where they're starting to get really out of line, out of control, and cross the line of free speech is in New York City with Columbia, NYU, and in California with UCLA. Last night was UCLA. Obviously, you're talking about one of the most progressive states, one of the most progressive cities in the nation, and one of the most progressive universities in the country. And when the chaos is going on like this in states that are Democrat states, on university campuses that are historically extremely liberal, it is devastating for Joe Biden. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, anyone out there that has any half a brain from the campaign standpoint. Again, I'm not even talking about the Biden administration right now. I'm talking about the Biden campaign. It is devastating for Joe Biden. It is hard for him to run, again, the way he did in 2020, saying Trump supporters are Nazis, when his own party, the people in his party, the people that make up the party are yelling death to Jews. It makes it extremely difficult for someone like Joe Biden, who could barely speak a sentence, to try to come up with some sort of conclusion on how it makes sense to call the other side a Nazi, the other side fascist, when your people are yelling death to Jews. And right now, the Biden administration, pause from the campaign, the current resident in the White House, Joe Biden, and his campaign has absolutely no idea what to do. Listen to this clip from yesterday, then I'll dive into it. This is from this past week when his administration is being asked, have you talked to Columbia? Have you talked to these universities around the country? What is your plan to stop the chaos going on in the country right now? Stop the Kill the Jew movement. Stop the pro-terrorist movement. What's your plan? And this was the response the media got.
Has anyone from the administration been in touch with administrators, leaders at Columbia or any of these universities that are seeing these protests?
I don't have any calls to read out at this time. Obviously, we're closely monitoring the situation. We're getting regular updates, and I'm just gonna keep it there. I just don't have anything to share as far as calls or readouts.
How the heck has the Biden administration not talked to these universities, public, private universities around the country, when there's riots, mass protest, and bad situations for Americans, right? The Jewish students on these campuses are Americans, Joe Biden. They may not be supporters of yours anymore, but they're still Americans who have their lives on the line right now going to college. How the hell has the Biden administration not met with, talked with on the phone, made a Zoom call with any of these universities? Yet he had the time. The administration had the time to meet with Alan Bragg, have him to the White House multiple times, to come up with a game plan for these political prosecutions right now going on in New York City. And guess what? Biden had the time to meet with, before the Mar-a-Lago raid, he had time to meet with the National Archivists before they raided Mar-a-Lago to plan how that was going to look. And Biden has had meetings and multiple conversations, and his administration has publicly talked about the fact that they've met with Fannie Lewis before the charges and the sham trial that's going to happen in Georgia. The prosecutor on that case. So why isn't Biden meeting with these universities? It's because Biden doesn't care right now. His focus is staying in power. And these campuses are Democrat campuses. And he really has no choice from a campaign standpoint, because if he goes after them and shuts all this crap down that's going on these campuses, again, that's his base. His base is the Nazis. His base is these radical protesters. And think about what these students are doing. Again, majority of these people, a poll came out this past, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, saying that at least 50%, I think the number I saw was 56% of these protests right now, the people who are protesting at these universities don't attend the university that the protest is happening on. That's called trespassing, folks. They're breaking into buildings, taking over buildings that they don't own. Even if you're a student, you can't break into a building and occupy a building that you don't own. It's not about the free speech. Again, if they want to protest the position, fine. I disagree with the position, but they have every right to protest the position. The problem is when you're threatening students, you're breaking and entering on a campus you don't own, yelling, "Kill the Jews." Again, makes no sense right now. And these students at UCLA, I'm going to read you right here. These students at UCLA, they requested from the administration, they demanded from the university, they demanded food, not bagels. Who doesn't like bagels? I guess it's because it's, again, a racist thing or going against the Jewish culture, right? A correlation between Jews and bagels, so they want food, not bagels. They want vegan and gluten-free food delivered to them in the buildings that they have broken and entered into and occupy. They're asking for super bright flashlights with strobes, rope and zip ties. I don't think you need rope or zip ties for free speech. I don't think you need super bright flashlights with strobe lights for free speech. They want helmets, shields, and wood. I don't think for free speech you need a helmet, a shield, or wood. And then this was the weirdest request that I saw on the list. And the last one I'm going to point out here, because we're going to move on from this whole thing, because it shows how stupid these people are. They requested lotion and knee pads. It's not a joke. College students are requesting lotion and knee pads from the university. What is the university condoning? Lotion and knee pads. Interesting. These college students, again, and these people that are rioting, these people that are coming together and really running these protests, again, I just said more than 50% of them don't even attend the university that the protest is taking place in. And they're demanding lotion and knee pads. I just said, you don't need any of the stuff that they just requested for free speech. You don't. And you see people like George Soros, who is publicly saying, I've sent millions and millions of dollars into these protests. These are mega donors that are trying to sow division in this country. I've said it on previous podcasts. The only reason these protests are going on right now on campuses around the country is because right now, as we get ready for the summer and students are getting ready to leave campus and there's not much school going on at these universities, they're finishing up school, they could use these useful idiots right now on these campuses. So when you have someone pumping in millions and millions of dollars, teaching them how to protest, what to say, what to wear, what the sign should say. Again, these students don't have the belief. They're just blindly pumping the narrative. These are the same exact people, the same exact protesters, the same exact people with the BLM, the defund the police, Antifa, Seattle. I mean, we can talk about this all day. And now it's just the kill the Jew movement. And none of this is working. And like I said, that's my fear right now, is none of this is working. Obviously, I want Donald Trump to be the next president of the United States. I don't think I've made my position very up for interpretation. Because I believe another 4 years under Joe Biden will lead to the destruction of the American way, the American culture, the American principles that we have lived off of since 1776 that makes this country the freest nation in the world and the greatest country to ever exist. But I believe 4 more years with Joe Biden would lead to World War III, more division, more censorship, less rights, and the end to the democracy as we know it, the end to the republic as we know it. And it would be very difficult for us to ever get it back to where we were. And so, like I said, when things aren't working from the campaign standpoint, they're trying to throw darts at the dartboard right now and have something stick. None of it's working. The trials didn't stick. The raid didn't stick. Russia didn't stick. The insurrection didn't stick. January 6th didn't stick. The trials in New York City didn't stick. Now it's going to be China collusion. Again, that one's not going to stick. I'll give you guys advice here. Don't do the China collusion thing because it's stupid. If Trump's going to collude with someone, let's have it be someone, that it would make logical sense for him to collude with, not a country that he was stronger on and harder on than any president in history. And so I believe, and I truly believe this, the Democrats right now and the elites who are really running the White House, really running the world right now, I believe they have no choice but to go nuclear, no choice but to go radical, and that's my fear. And the pre-programming has shown us that something big, a Black Swan event, something massive is going to happen. And it's not just the Democrats. I said it. It's Hollywood. It's Obama. It's the DOD. It's Homeland Security. A Black Swan event is coming right now, and I believe it's going to be massive in this country and something tragic in this country. And I hate saying that. I don't want that. I want nothing less than that. But when it does happen, we need to be aware, and that's why I'm talking about it here on this podcast, because we, the Common Sense Army, need to know it's coming and know what it is before it happens. I don't know what the event's going to be, and I'm not going to try to speculate on what exactly the event's going to be. These are power-hungry people who don't want to lose power. And I'm not talking about Joe Biden. I'm talking about the elites who have done everything in their power to dismantle Donald Trump as a human being and dismantle his movement, because his movement is something that they can't control. People who love America, people who love freedom, and people who care about the future of this country and our world. You can't control that populace. And so I believe something big is coming right now, and something not great for this nation, because I believe their backs are against the wall, and nothing they've tried in this campaign, and since the day Donald Trump left office, even before Donald Trump left office, when they tried the January 6th to make it impossible, they were going to try to convict him of insurrection to make it impossible for him to run ever again, none of it has worked. And so I believe their only solution is for something big. A Black Swan. And so we need to be aware it's coming. Know it's coming. Be prepared for it. Have food for your family. Store food. I don't have any advertisers on this podcast, but store food. Be prepared. Make sure you have a weapon or something to protect your family. Something's coming right now, and I'm not fear-mongering out here. I don't want anything to happen. There's no harm in being prepared. But I actually believe, just like every one of these things they've tried to throw at Trump and throw at his movement, again, there will be an equal and opposite reaction. And I don't think it's going to be the outcome Democrats think it would be, the elites think it would be. I think it would bring the movement together, the Republicans together, and Americans together. And I believe it would make the Make America Great Again movement even bigger than it is today. Look at what happened post 9/11. There was unity in this nation like we've never seen before. Democrats, Republicans, whites, blacks, Jews, Muslims, everyone in this country linked arms because they care about this country. And like I said, Donald Trump's people, his supporters, yell, "Make America Great Again," and sing the national anthem. Joe Biden's people say death to America and kill the Jews. That's the reality of the America we're living in right now. And so on this episode of the Why I'm Right podcast, I just want to make it very clear. I don't know what the event is going to be. I just know it's going to be desperate times, and desperate times call for desperate measures. And right now, the people who are desperate are not people that I want to be desperate, but the reality is they are. And so something's coming, folks. As always, I say it again, share these videos with your friends, your family. Make sure you click the subscribe button here below. It helps me more than you know, and it helps more people listen to these podcasts and listen and join the Common Sense Army. My mission here at this podcast, at the Why I'm Right podcast, is continue to have the conversation every day that many people aren't having. Because I want this nation to flourish. I want the people, regardless of their race, class, gender, ideology, I want everyone in this nation to flourish economically, socially. And again, I have family. I have a daughter. The future of this country is critically important to me. And I know it's the same for you. And so I do this podcast because I believe there's more people in this country that have common sense, that don't listen to the narrative, don't listen to the mainstream media. And when more people wake up and see what's really going on in this country, I believe we can unify against the elites and against the Death to America crowd right now, the Death to Israel crowd, the Death to Jews crowd. So as always, I hope you have a great weekend. We're back next week, Monday. We'll be back. Make sure you guys tune in. And as always, I say it, This has been the Why I'm Right podcast, and I just told you why I'm right.
You've been listening to Why I'm Right. Thanks for being a part of the Common Sense Army. Our passion is to cut through the noise and confusion and to bring light to clickbait and outright lies in the media. Unafraid, unapologetic, real and raw. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at Why I'm Right, on X at Why I'm Right Pod. And for more, hit the website at www.whyimrightpodcast.com. See you next time.